again. As the last time, we're still going to look the advantage of being under the review.
Yes.
As compared to, me making an arrangement.
Yes.
That's one part. The other thing that I want us to look at, I've heard from the grapevine, NCR is working on the debt relief bill. If you can comment on those, what's the difference between the two? Let's start with the advantage and disadvantages.
Well, the disadvantages are not that many if you're in a bad situation. You need to pay back all the debt. So you are stuck in a process, so that's what some people consider a disadvantage. And you can't get new debt while you're in debt review. So for people who only live with debt, it is sometimes quite difficult, but you will have heard the same thing. I'm done with this debt. I am taking no more debt after this. Sure. I've heard so many people say that.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it's not necessarily a big disadvantage. Some people are delighted that they can get no debt.
Yeah.
From an advantage point of view, half of the advantage of debt review is psychological.
Yeah.
Everything is fixed. The amount you're going to pay every month is fixed. So no one's going to be phoning you. No one's going to be stressing you. If you can afford that amount, it is the best place to be is in debt review. You're legally protected. So your house and your car in debt review. If you have a court order from formal, proper debt review, and you have paid according to that court order every month, nobody can touch your house or your car. And I think for a lot of people, that's the biggest of the lot. My house is safe. I've paid 10 years already on my house. I'm not losing my house. I need a car to get to work, and my car is safe. So for a lot of people, it's a very secure place to be, is in debt counselling. It's got a legal blanket around it, and people in there are protected. So those, for me, are the biggest advantages of debt counselling. Do the process properly, pay every month, and your assets, your house, your car will be protected. You won't have judgments against you. You won't have a messed up credit record. And at the end, your credit record is clear. It's clear. There's no more. The National Credit Act says no one may keep a record of the fact that you are under debt review once all the money has been paid back. So you pay the money back and you start basically as a fresh creditor if you want to have credit after that. And many people don't.
Yeah. Now tell me, Russ, as you said, people after debt review, they are liberated now, and then they are protected because they're under debt review. They are not going to lose their houses or their cars.
Yeah.
Now, what if I can say there are some people that say, I was under debt review, but they took my car. What could have happened there?
In most of the cases that I've seen like that, it was cases where people didn't pay the correct amount every month.
Okay.
There are cases of bad debt counsellors. You and I have seen them in the industry.
Okay.
People who aren't debt counsellors, who claim to be debt counsellors. Debt counsellors are registered with the National Credit Regulator. If you are working with a debt counsellor who says he's a debt counsellor and who's not registered on the National Credit Regulator's website, in the debt counsellor database, he is not a debt counsellor. You cannot believe him. So that's one of the biggest things, is people who haven't paid according to the court order, and the other one is either bad debt counsellors, and you do get bad debt counsellors, like you get bad doctors and bad lawyers and bad accountants, and lately lots of bad auditors.
Exactly.
You do get them. So there are cases where clients have been done in. But in the majority of cases that I've seen, it's been non-payment or trying to get something sorted out with an unregistered person who doesn't necessarily say he's a debt counsellor, but he works with debt.
Yeah. Now, how do, as a consumer, how do I check that Russell is registered and is still active? How do I do that?
First thing, as I said just now, National Credit Regulator's website. It's got everybody's name there, everybody's business there. So that's first port of call. What I would advise people after that is social media.
Okay.
Go and look at social media, go and see if they've got a website, see what their website looks like. Make sure it's legit. Phone them. Actually phone them and ask to speak to the debt counsellor. If you've got a debt counselling question, speak to the debt counsellor. If you can't get hold of a debt counsellor when you want to make a query, it's going to be worse when you're in the situation.
Yeah.
So speak to the debt counsellor.
And register.
Make sure he's registered. If you want to find out whether it's a good firm or a bad firm, some of those consumer websites, Hello Peter's one of them. Lots of complaints on Hello Peter. Go and type in the name of the debt counsellor. If it comes up with 200 complaints, you could have a problem. If there's 5 compliments, then you're probably in the right place.
Exactly.
Do your research before, and don't let people tell you need to go into debt counselling. There's a whole leads generation part of debt counselling where they phone people and say, you need to go into debt counselling. This is what debt you've got. They've got a whole lot of mechanisms like call center agents have. They've been trained to do this. And people go into debt counselling without even realising they're under debt counselling. That's a very bad practice.
Russell, now, will I be right as a consumer if I come in and say to the so-called debt counsellor or the purport to be a debt counsellor, show me your registration number, show me your certificate.
Why not?
All those kind of things. And then before I go to the website and check on NCR, but I ask you so that I can set you. Will I be right?
There's certainly no problem with that. It can be practically not so wonderful because a lot of us do consultations over Zoom, especially now with less contact and that type of thing. But I could certainly hold up my certificate and they could see a number on Zoom or on WhatsApp call or whatever it is. Someone could request it. I would certainly not have a problem with showing to them. It's on my wall.
Okay. Even just share the number.
Yes.
And then so that the person can check and say, this person is registered. Yeah. Now, one of the things that I wanted to check, as I said earlier on, is the whole issue that this debt relief bill, what impact and what does it mean to an ordinary person in the street? What does it mean? What does it say?
I think to start, let's just say that it's not through yet.
Okay.
It's not final. It hasn't had final approval from Parliament yet. It's been going for a long time.
Yeah.
In January 2018, we were in Cape Town in Parliament giving submissions to the Department of Trade and Industry subcommittee that was dealing with this debt intervention bill. And some of the banks were there, all the other industry players were there, microfinance was there, the Credit Bureau Association was there, and everybody gave their input. The result that came out, I think, surprised everybody because everybody thought it would go their way, but it didn't. But in the greater scheme of things, we supported most of the debt intervention bill. The biggest issue is that at the bottom end of the market where this is aimed, it's aimed at people earning under 7,500 rand with debt of less than 50,000 rand. So it's the bottom end of the market and it's where debt is very, very messy and where people get into this debt whirlpool that they never get out of. So it is a mechanism to get people out of debt. We argued that it should be done by registered debt counsellors who are currently practicing. That didn't happen. Or that is not in the proposal. It might still happen.
Yes.
And as the Debt Counsellors Association, we were very keen for debt counsellors to handle the process. They've got the experience. They're spread across the whole country. Almost every small town has a debt counsellor. So it would be a mechanism of getting the debt intervention bill out to the people instead of trying to run it from a central point and running it as another government department, which is not necessarily going to be as effective as having private people implementing the debt intervention bill. But as a mechanism of sorting out debt in this country, I think if we have a basic income grant and a debt intervention bill and they both work well, we can lift a lot of people out of poverty in this country.
While you're still there, Russ, one of the questions towards closure now, I'm a pensioner, or I have a pensioner, or it's somebody who's getting a grant, a child grant, disability grant. Can I go under debt review?
You can go under debt review, but you shouldn't have credit. If you are, if you're on a basic grant, a disability grant, if you're on a pension, it's actually stated you may not give people to credit who only have a pension. It's not a nice end of the market. I wouldn't like to be trading as a creditor in that part of the market. Generally, giving credit to people who are getting a basic income is not a clever idea, and it does cause a lot of problems. We've had pensioners under debt review, quite a few. We've helped a lot of pensioners get out of debt who were under debt review. It causes great stress in old people's lives, and I don't think it's necessary to give those people credit. Often it's a rushed decision when they take it. Something's happened, they need some money, they take it, and they don't think of the consequences of paying it back. And that's where the problem comes in with pensioners.
Now, here's somebody out there says, you know what, I've just gone on pension, and my money is finished, I still have debts. Now, how will you advise that person how to deal with that?
It's a very difficult one. I always hope that people have finished paying off their house by the time they go on pension. Or with the payout they get when they go on pension, hopefully they get a payout, they can settle their house. So that they've got that security going into old age. You've got a paid house. You are not going to be in a situation where you don't have a roof over your head, where you have to live in someone's backyard or live with your children or whatever the case may be. If your income is going to decrease when you go on pension, then that debt needs to be sorted out with any payout that you get. Because to suddenly have a decreased income with the same amount of debt puts you under financial pressure. So planning towards retirement needs to include debt planning. Management of debt at the time of retirement, or preferably getting rid of that debt before that retirement age. I've seen too many people who never bought a house, who have been renting for 20 years. Rent goes up 10%. Pensions, if you're lucky, go up 2 or 3%. 10 years later, your rent has outstripped your pension so badly that you can no longer afford the rent. And there's nothing more disheartening as a debt counsellor, having an old person of 70, 75, walking into your office and saying, there's my pension, there's my rent, what do I do? Because there's very little that you can do.
And Russ, I think it was nice talking to you.
It was wonderful talking to you, sir.
And then I'll tell you one thing, we'll still do more.
It'll be great.
Because people out there, they need to know. And then my last question will be how important it is for consumers or people, ordinary people, to continue, because I'm a proponent of education. As you can see, we have lined up all our books that we have written, including the book of Dr. Small, who worked for the Reserve Bank for 37 years. as an advisor to governors. She's an economist by profession. Now, how important it is for people to educate themselves. They are under debt review. Is it necessary for people to educate themselves more about debt review, even if they are just consumers?
Absolutely. The level of understanding of debt in this country is very low. It amounts to, do I qualify and how much can I get? The other terms and conditions. Wendy Naylor wrote an article the other day. 37% of people don't know that they have credit life insurance that they signed for with their agreements. It's that type of education that people need. How to work with debt. What are your rights in terms of debt? What are your rights in terms of cars and houses? It's education, as you say, is important for everybody all the time. I believe in a country, education is absolutely vital. The more educated a population is, the better decisions that they make, and the better a country runs. It's just plain and simple. So getting back to debt education, absolutely.
Russell, you have said a mouthful. As you could hear, people, Russell is very knowledgeable. You can imagine a guy from science, engineering world to restaurant, finally doing that. It shows how important money is, because that is very important. And Russell is not just only a debt counsellor, as I indicated, he's the president of Dickerson, which is Debt Counsellors Association of South Africa. And now, I'm sure you heard he has been speaking about negotiations. In other words, they negotiate with creditors, all stakeholders, the government. You mentioned that they were at the parliament and all those things. So the guy is really, really well equipped, well capacitated. Russ, thank you. We'll call you again.
Thank you very much.
Tap into your brain for the sake of our viewers.
Thank you very much, Sylvie.
All right. Thank you.